All right, fourth graders, so we're still working in geometry, but we are shifting gears a little bit from angles to talk about area and perimeter. Now, you learned about area and perimeter in third grade. You learned that the perimeter is all the way around. Add all the sides. That means you add all the sides going all the way around a rectangle. We are specifically talking about rectangles, so we don't need to worry about any other area or perimeter formulas. The area is the amount of space total that something takes up. So for example, let me just grab a sticky note here, okay? And on my sticky note, my perimeter would be this edge plus this edge plus this edge plus this edge. Okay, that's the perimeter. You add all the sides together. The area is the total amount of space that the sticky note takes up. All right? So, and to find the area, we multiply the length times the width. All right, so one side times one side. All right, now we have to know that what those two formulas are. I will tell you that you will be given a formula sheet that does have the formula for area and perimeter on it. It's going to look something like this, where it's going to say area is equal to length times width, okay? And perimeter is equal to 2L plus 2W. That means 2 lengths plus 2 widths, which would be the same thing as saying the perimeter is equal to the length plus the length plus the width plus the width. And we know that with rectangles, right, that this side and this side are equal, and this side and this side are equal. Okay, so that's why you're able to multiply a little bit, because you would be doing repeated addition. But whichever works easier for you. I personally like to just add all the sides, because then once I move to different shapes, I don't have to change my perimeter formula. I'm still adding all the sides. Okay, but let's look at some examples of questions you might see with area and perimeter. Now, in your practice today, you are simply going to be finding the area and the perimeter. However, you might see some questions like that, like when you go to take the FAST test, but that's not going to be everything that you're going to see. Sometimes we're given part of the information and we have to figure out some of the other information using these formulas. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the information that they give us, plugging it into the formulas that we have, and to figure out the other information. All right, so let's take a look at this problem. It says Marissa has 64 feet of fencing. Fencing goes around the outside of something, right? So we're thinking about perimeter here because it's going all the way around the outside. She uses the fencing to border a rectangular flower garden. Marissa wants the length of the garden to be 20 feet. She plans to use all of the fencing. What is the width? Okay, so they drew a picture. I'm going to draw what I would draw on my paper. I know all of my sides together are going to equal, so I'm going to write it up here, length plus width is going to equal 64 feet, right? I know that the length is 20 feet. If it's 20 feet on this side, it's 20 feet on this side, right? Would you guys agree with that? It's 20 feet on both of these sides. So what I have to figure out is what these are, and I know that these two numbers are going to be the same. They have to be the same, okay? And when I add all four numbers, I have to get 64. So how am I going to figure this out? Well, I already know that 20 plus 20 plus the width equals 64, right? I know part of the formula. So I want to figure out what the two widths need to equal. So I'm going to take away the lengths. 20 plus 20 is 40. 64 minus 40 equals 24. So I'm just going to write it right here. I know that W plus W is equal to 24. What two numbers, what doubles facts, can I use to get 24? What plus what equals 24? It has to be the same two numbers. I could use division, 24 divided by 2, to figure that out. Or you could use your multiplication facts. I know that that would be 12. So that means that the width would be 12 feet and 12 feet. So 12 plus 12 plus 20 plus 20 equals 64. I can double check my math to make sure that I'm correct, but that's what I did. Do you guys see how I just plugged in what I knew to figure out what I didn't know? That's all you're doing. I know this looks a little bit, you might be thinking, wow, Miss Long. If your parents might be thinking, wow, this looks a little bit like algebra. And it is kind of introductory algebra. But what all we're doing is taking what we know to figure out what we don't know. So let's look at another example. All right. Here again, we have our formulas. We know that the length is the same and the width is the same. You see they're the same colors on here. The perimeter is all the way around the outside. All right, so we add all the sides. We could also do 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Either of those work for perimeter, and this would be kind of how you would see that. The area is the length times the width. So A is equal to L times W. Okay? All right. Here we have another example. We're going to find an unknown side. That's usually what you see questions about when it comes to area and perimeter, so I did want to kind of mention that. That's pretty common where we're finding an unknown side. So this is something that you're going to definitely want to be able to practice. Kevin is making a rectangular mural using tiles. He buys enough tiles to cover an area. What is he covering? An area of 112 square feet. He wants the width to be 8 feet. He wants to use all of the tiles. What will the length be? So right here they drew a picture of it, and we want to think 8 times what equals 112. And why are we multiplying this time? Well, because it tells us that he wants the area to be 112. Okay, and area is length times width. Area is equal to length times width. All right, so now I just have to figure out 8 times what equals 112. Well, those are not multiplication facts that I know. I know up to 8 times, let's see here, 8 times 11 is 88, 8 times 12 is 96. It's going to be close to 12, right? Because 96 is pretty close to 112. All right, so let's do a quick division. The opposite of multiplication is division, and you can always use the inverse operation or the opposite operation to solve. 8 can't go into 1, but 8 can go into 11. 8 goes into 11 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. I subtract. 8, 9, 10, 11. I get 3. 3 is less than 8, so I bring down my 2. 8 times what equals 32? I'm not going to have any remainders when I do this kind of problem, okay? So 8 times what equals 32? 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. 4 times 8 is 32. I subtract, and I get nothing. So my mystery length is going to equal 32 feet. Okay? Again, I took what I knew to figure out what I didn't know. We're going to use these formulas a lot. All right. I'm going to use the back side of this piece of paper to solve the problems because it says to use your own sheet of paper. All right. I want you to work along with me. Carla wants to build a garden in her backyard. She wants the width of the garden to be 9 meters and the perimeter to be 54 meters. What length should she make the garden? So I'm going to draw a picture. Always, 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 when you're doing area and perimeter problems, draw a picture. Okay? It's going to be a rectangle every time. So that's an easy picture to draw. Okay? I know that the excuse me, the width is 9 meters. And I know when I add, so this side is also 9 meters. And when I add the length plus the length plus the width plus the width, I'm going to get, what did it say? 54 meters, because it's a perimeter, so that's why I pulled out the perimeter formula. Okay, I want you to pause and see if you can figure it out, and then come back and check with me. If you're unsure, that's okay. Try, because if you don't ever try, you're never going to figure it out. Give yourself, set a timer for like 2 minutes. Try for 2 minutes. If you haven't gotten it after 2 minutes, come on back and join me. If you get it before the 2 minutes, come back and join me when you've gotten the answer and see if you're right. Okay, so we're trying to figure out the length, okay? Remember, the two lengths are the same. We know that the two widths are 9. We don't know what the two lengths are, but we know when we add them all together, we get 54. Well, 9 plus 9 is 18. Okay, so if I do 54 minus my 18 that I already know, that's going to tell me what my two lengths add together to equal. That's going to be 14. That's going to be 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's a 6. And 4 minus 1 is 3. So the length plus the length equals 36. So what number plus what number equals 36? If you don't know, you can always do 36 divided by 2. 2 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. I subtract, I get 1. Bring down my 6. 2 goes into 16 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. I subtract and I get 0. So that means that my length for one of them is 18 meters. Okay? It took a few steps to get there. I have to know this formula. I'm still having to do subtraction with regrouping. I'm still having to do division. I'm still having to think about my multiplication facts. All of our math skills that we learn aren't individual skills. They all link together. So we have to know all of them. All right? So the answer to number 8 is going to be 18 meters. All right, let's look at number 9. We're going to use a separate sheet of paper to solve it again. Bill is building a deck. He wants the length of the deck to be 7 feet. He wants the area. So what formula are we using? The area formula, right? To be 105 feet. So I know when I draw my picture, right, it's a rectangle. He wants the length to be 7 feet. We have to figure out the width. We don't know. But we know, sorry, move this paper to the side. 7 times the width is going to equal 105 feet. I don't know 7 times what equals 105. How do I figure it out? The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to have to use division. 105 divided by 7. This is a great way for you to re-practice those division skills. We're doing a lot of it, aren't we? Okay, 7 can't go into 1, but it can go into 10 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. I subtract, I get 3. I would have had to group, right? 3 is smaller than 7. I bring down my 5. I know that 7 times 5 is 35. So I'm going to multiply, subtract. All right, that means that my width is 15 feet. That's what I would fill in on my paper here. All right, we're going to keep practicing problems that are kind of like this. Today, your classwork is going to be simply practicing to solve the area and perimeter formula. So you're not going to be doing this work just yet, but you will be doing it coming up. So make sure that you understand this video. If you need to re-watch it a few times, do that. I know that this is something that's kind of new, but you guys can do it. I know you can. All right, and I will see you guys back in the next video. Bye, guys.